Welcome to episode 2 of modding Battle for Bikini Bottom. So last time we left off, we basically modded configuration files, and we got to make SpongeBob move really fast and, cool stuff like that. Things that are consistent throughout the game. But now we're actually going to add our own personal touches to the game, editing text in this episode, for example. So, the first thing you want to do is open up your root folder and make a new folder called boot, hips, and hops. Now we're going to go over to quick BMS. Actually, first open up the boots, hips, and hops. Make a new, not a shortcut, make a new file, and we're going to call it fresh hips. Make another new file, and we're going to call it modded hips. So now we're going to open quick BMS, and we're going to choose the actual script now. So I just opened up something I did not want to open. We're going to choose the actual thing now. So go over to Boots, Hips, and Hops. My bad. Go to BFBB mod. Choose that SpongeBob script folder that we downloaded earlier. And choose SpongeBob BBBPS2 hop.bms. So now that you've chosen that, we can go back to BFBB mod. Go over to our game files. And basically we're going to choose which one we want to extract from. So choose the boot.hip file. This is the most important file in your Battle for Bikini Bottom files. This has most of the things that are consistent throughout the game, like SpongeBob's texture, all that stuff. So now we're going to choose where we want to extract to, which is our boots, hips, and hops, fresh hips file. Press save. It'll begin extracting, and press enter when you're done. Now if we open up our boots, hips, and hops, fresh hips file, you'll see everything in the entire game. Just kidding, it's most of the stuff in the entire game that are consistent, at least. So you have your cruise bubble animation, all of SpongeBob's animations are here basically, for his running, his jumping, his attacking, his wall jumping, everything. And the best way to look at these is to right click, sort by, and then type. So if you sort by type, you'll notice that everything is a lot more together. It's actually, I'm going to make it ascending. So we have the model files, which are the models, like the 3D models. We can't just edit .modl files with like Blender though and save it. You have to do other steps, but we'll get into that eventually. Different tutorial, that's a lot more advanced. All the animation files. I don't know what this is, but whatever. These are audio files, and you can actually replace these if you convert to the right format. But the hard thing about this is every single file in here, and this is very important, every single file in here, if you're replacing a file, has to be equal size or less size than what you're replacing. So if I wanted to replace box open with a different audio file, the audio file would have to be 18 kilobytes or less. It can't be 19 kilobytes and so on. It has to be 18 or less. You can't replace stuff with things that are bigger. So for this video's sake, because we're pretty new to modding, we're going to do a simple text mod. So I'm going to look for Mr. Krabs' his text. Here he is. Mr. Krabs _ name _ text. And before we actually modify the file, what I like to do is go through, go to here and open up our modded hips, which is currently empty. And anything we plan on modding, you can just Control-C, Control-V it into here. And this will keep our fresh files here, so if we ever want to like go back to a fresh file, we have it, and while having our modded files separate. So we're going to edit Mr. Krabs' name. So we're going to edit with Notepad++. And now we'll see that we have it's pretty self-explanatory, but this is his name and the color of his name. So we're going to make his name blue actually. So simply just take your 0.3, get rid of that, set this equal to 0 now, set this equal to 0.3. Now an important thing to note, that if you wanted to make 0.3 red, 0.3 blue, 0.3 green, make his name gray, because this is RGB. If you don't know how that works, 0 is less, and then 1 would be the most. So like blue equals 1 would be the most blue, and so on. And you can combine that in different ways. But basically, if you wanted to do that, you would kind of have an issue, because this text file, like I said earlier, cannot be a greater size than what it originally was. So we can't make Mr. Krabs' name be Mr. Krabs, because now the text file has too many characters in it. His name has to be the same size or shorter than what it was originally for this to work. So we're just going to change his name to Miss Krabs for the hell of it. Why not? And we're going to save. So Control S to save. And you can do this for as many characters as you want, basically. So if you want to do Mermaid Man's name, just copy his name in, put it here, then edit it, and we're good to go. But for the sake of time, I'm just going to do one name, because you can obviously tell how to do the rest of them now. So now that we modded something, we're actually going to have to re-import it now, because all we did was extract and mod. We didn't actually put it back together. And a lot of people get this far where they'll be able to change something, but they can't put it back together. So we're going to actually use the re-import script in QuickBMS. And the first thing we want to choose is the script. So we're going to go to SpongeBob scripts and choose the same thing we chose earlier, the hop file, SpongeBob BB PS2 hop. Now we're going to choose what we want to re-import to. So go over to our game files, and we're going to choose the boot.hip that we extracted from. Now we're choosing the directory of modded files. So we're going to go to our hips and hops and modded hips. This is why I have you guys separate your modded ones from your unmodded ones. It's so much easier to just re-import from a directory of only modded files than to re-import every single file in the game. It gets way too messy and it's way too confusing. So just press save now. It re-imported the one file and there was no issues, so that's good. Press enter to close. And congratulations, you successfully modded Battle for Bikini Bottom beyond just changing a couple of like numbers. So we're going to open our boot.dol from Dolphin. And we're going to actually try out our mod now, so let's see. There's only one change. It's really not a big change, but it's a change. And on a wide scale effect, you could change every character in the game's name now, which is kind of cool. This also applies for every other hip and hop in the game, by the way, which we'll get into, don't worry. So we start up, we're already here. Plankton's name is normal and red, as it should be. Mr. Krabs' name is blue, and it's Mrs. Krabs now, or Miss Krabs. There you go, that's your mod, and that's permanent now. Every time you talk to Mr. Krabs, that's his name. It's Miss Krabs, that's just what it is. Congratulations, you've changed something. So the game's no longer what it was, other than your movement speed and stuff. It's now different on a more in-depth level. You can make it more personal now to you. You can make it your mod. But what is a mod without texture editing? So that's what we're going to be doing in the next tutorial, but there's still one more thing I want to cover in this one, and it's actually going to transition into the next episode. So let's close up Dolphin. Just press stop, say yes. And we're going to extract one more file, my favorite file to modify personally. So we're going to make one called hub, hips, and hops. There we go. So we have boot hips and hops, and we have hub hips and hops. If you want to be more organized, make another folder called hips and hops and put all your level files in there, but I don't care. A little too organized for me. And we're going to do the same exact thing in hub hips and hops. We're going to have fresh hips, fresh hops. I mean fresh hips and modded hips. There we go. So now we're going to go to QuickBMS. We're going to run the main program. Same thing as last time, SpongeBob scripts, choose this one. We're going to go back now, and now we're going to go to our game files, choose the hub, and choose hub 1. We're going to be extracting the hip for now. So choose hip. And now we're going to go over to our hub hips and hops, choose our fresh hips, and we're going to save it here. It's a big file. It's a really big file. There you go. Something already exists. Do you want to overwrite it? That doesn't make sense because it's an empty file. I guess yes. We're going to overwrite it. Whatever. That's weird. So we'll open up our hubs, hips, and hops, go to our fresh hips, and we have a lot of files here. Make sure you sort by type or you're gonna be really confused. So a lot of shit in here, I have no idea what it does. Like a DYNA file, I'm not exactly sure what that is. A group file, a grup file, I would guess has to do with grouping, but then there's also the .group grup file, which is actually a grup file in the end. But I mean, you get the point. There's a lot of files in here. But along with all these like random files, there's also text files, which are pretty cool. So we're going to look for Patrick's text file. So if we scroll down long enough, we just pass them. Might be able, here we go, Patrick's text files. So I'm guessing Patrick's success is you bring him a sock. Patrick reminder is like you talk to him and he doesn't give you a sock. But begin text seems like a good area to begin with. So we're going to edit his begin text. But first, remember, it's important to actually go to your hub hips and hops, modded hips, and we're going to copy it over before we edit it. And this is a great example because a lot of these files are going to be this large and it's going to be really annoying to remember which ones you modified. So just copy that over. Now we have his begin text with us. So it's, did you find 10 lost socks? Keyword is socks because our code, the game's code highlights some words. So it's saying that socks is a keyword. Not yet, Patrick. And then he's like, oh, did they find you? So this is when you talk to him after like you talked to him for the first time. So we're going to change, oh, did they find you to that sucks. And we're going to save it. Now we can close that. So now when we re-import, you can already guess what's going to happen. So feel free to skip this if you're not interested at all. But if you want to recap on how to re-import, this is a great way to see it. So you can go to your SpongeBob scripts, choose that one. Now we're going to choose the file we want to re-import to. So make sure you go to game files. We're going to go down to our actual hub file now. And we're going to choose the hub1 area that we extracted in the hip file. Don't be too hasty with this. If you mess up something, you could potentially break your mod. But that's also why we keep our backup fresh levels. If you break something, just copy in a fresh level and you're good to go. So now we can go over to our, I forgot what I was doing. Oh, right. We need to do our hub hips and hops, our modded hips. Press save, and it re-imports the one file without a problem. Press enter. And now if we open up Dolphin again, press open, boot.dol, you'll see that we've modded Patrick's text now. Alright, so Mr. Krabs is still Miss Krabs with blue text. If we go over to Patrick now, you'll see that the sock, like the keyword we were saying earlier, see how it's red? It's because the game set it as a keyword. Now if we talk to him, he'll be like, did you find my 10 lost socks? Just like we saw. And he says, oh, that sucks now, in the text. Note that his audio doesn't change, because obviously he's not like reading the text. But you can change the audio file. If you really want to get into modding this game and completely change the text, go ahead, that's up to you. But this is how you do it, basically. You can change text now for anything in the game, including, press the R button to enter Patrick's house. You can change text for anything. And there's a lot of potential there. There's a lot of things you can do, but at the same time, text is often overlooked in games. So choose wisely what you want to modify. Don't waste your time, because it does take a while to even make one change. But if you're really going in and you're trying to completely change the game, go ahead, change all the text. You know how to now. So for the next tutorial, we're going to be editing textures, which is actually a lot of fun. It's one of my favorite things to do with the game. So tune in for the next one.